If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 312 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Yuri Tielemans of Irish MMA Media as we talk about a crazy night in the world of mixed martial arts. And the Yuri Tielemans of MMA Media will be Graeme McDonald as well, who joins me here. Before we get into the mad weekend and a big week next week as well, let's give a quick shout out and a literal shout out to our sponsors Manscaped this week, because the shouts are sometimes the screams I used to make when I would cut myself shaving before I knew about Manscaped. You need to try this out for yourself. The Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 has been beautifully designed to reduce those painful nicks and tugs. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. I mean, we need to start talking about and thinking about reducing cuts on your nuts. The Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 has been beautifully designed to reduce those painful nicks and tugs. It's our third generation trimmer featuring the skin safe technology so that you can keep your bad boys nice and smooth. The Manscaped engineering team obsesses over the technology. They spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created, the Lawnmower 3.0. When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. Hold on, do I have it here? I do. Here it is. The battery lasts up to 90 minutes, so you can have a longer shave. The waterproof technology allows you to use it in the shower, so you can keep everything nice and clean. And one of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates the whole area. And let's not forget about the charging stand, so you can show off you're more loud and proud, and it's charged by USB. So many people have written stories about the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer and how it has saved their lives. They've even included pictures so that we can see the smoothness for ourselves. You need to try this out for yourself. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping with the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com. Always use the right tools for the job. Alright, Graeme, here we go. A big night in the world of mixed martial arts last night. UFC 262 went down. First of all, our bets, absolutely fantastic. 5 out of our 6 bets came off in the...
3 out of 3 for me, don't forget. I didn't let the side down.
You didn't, but in fairness, my one bet that didn't come off was Charles Oliveira by submission. And Charles Oliveira still won, so like if you just bet him straight up, it was pretty good. But a good night for us. So if you want to sign up, patreon.com/SevereMA podcast, you'll make back your money on one. You definitely would have made it for the year, actually, on the last night if you'd been betting. But I suppose we'll start. There's no point burying the lead here. Let's start at the main event: Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira. Look, I tweeted just before the fight started, like, round 1 is going to be bananas. I thought in the co-main and the main there would be one round of the year. Watching it back, I'm not sure if it was a round of the year, but it was a fantastic live round. It was one of those rounds you kind of get taken away in and you kind of, you forget about it and you have to go back and watch it to score it or to talk about it. But what a wild fight. And I think the thing about this is, right, so we're moving into the new era. We're moving into the post-Habib era, an era where, like, I think Habib, to me and you, is a very exciting fighter, but to some people, maybe not the most exciting, and also even to people who are the hardcore of the hardcore, I think it was getting a tad boring because he was so dominant. But what we had here was an absolute kind of war between two new fresh faces in the UFC lightweight title picture. Now, they're absolutely not fresh faces in the world of MMA. You know, Oliveira been around for years and years. Chandler, obviously, we know, is a Bellator champion for years as well. But I don't know, yesterday as well, with Leicester winning the cup and the fans back and stuff as well, I brought a bit of an old tear to my old grey stony eye to see that yesterday. And this fight was just, I don't know, it was special in the first round. It was just, they went in there and they let everything go. And I see a few people like criticising Chandler about not letting everything go, but I thought he did. I thought he did as well as he probably could have, and Oliveira survived.
I don't know if he did as well as he could have. I think he made bad decisions in vital moments.
What do you think he did?
You know, he went for that guillotine after he cut Oliveira, which was just nonsense. Like, there was no chance of him getting that. Then he tried to stand up and gave his back and kind of got away with that. And then when he had him rocked, he was like we didn't make Oliveira stand up. Just throughout the fight, I think he made bad decisions in vital moments.
Yeah, I don't know. I think him him going for the guillotine, Oliveira had kind of taken him down, and I think that was more of like, right, am I going to guillotine him?
He could have avoided that, and he jumped on it. I thought he could have got out of that handily enough, and he, Oliveira had just been cut, and he okay, if he gets the guillotine, it looks fantastic. You've submitted the submission master or whatever, but just don't even go into that game. Like he got his back taken trying to stand up a few seconds after the guillotine attempt, and usually that would have been the end. He did well to escape that, and maybe if he had got that guillotine, or he had got out and ground and pounded him, everybody wouldn't have said perfect or whatever. But when you end up losing the fight, and there was moments where you kind of played into his game where you didn't need to, I think you look back at that and be disappointed in your decisions. Yeah,
I think. Okay, you made 2 points there. I think the guillotine one, first of all, I would say that guillotine was more a defensive guillotine than an offensive one, because he was taking him down. Okay, he could have done maybe different things, try to just get his back and immediately get out. But the problem is, as you just said there, when he tried to get out, when he tried to stand up, what happened? He got his fucking back taken, and that's the problem.
When he did it abruptly, he kind of tried to just kind of power out of it, and wrestler style. And when you need a bit more nuance than that against Oliveira, he got away with it. Like
you're fighting Oliveira though. Oliveira is the nuanced guy. Like, watch any of his fights. Like, I went back and watched the Kevin Lee fight this week, and if you try to scramble with him, if you try to be nuanced with him, if you try to make those kind of slight adjustments to get up, he will catch you in something. Like, you almost have to power out of it and take a chance to get up. That's why Chandler, for the rest of the fight, when the fight was on the ground or when he was just on top of him, was ultra careful about not being caught in something like that. I think people are kind of missing how good Charles Oliveira is on the ground. Like, what do they expect Michael Chandler to do? Just like give up everything and hop out of everything, go fucking go for Kimuras and every sort of way to get out against Oliveira.
The way he was going to win it was kind of like, he did a little bit of it where he stood over him and threw the odd kick and the odd punch, but then he just got sucked in a little bit too much. He could have frustrated Oliveira. Like, I was picking Chandler to get it done late, and I thought it was looking in the first round like he was going to be able to frustrate Oliveira, and kind of like, when they're on the feet, land the harder punches. But I just thought, he had moments where he could have, I think, finished the fight where he was too happy to follow Oliveira down, and he could have made Oliveira stand back up and hit him with a couple more shots. And we've seen Oliveira in the past, not once he can't get it into his game, he can fade. And I don't think that the execution of the game plan, if that was a game plan, was very good by Chandler, even though he nearly got the fight finished at one stage. I think
what's Artem saying, he would be the general after the battle. I think that's one.
But I said before when we were in the podcast last week and the betting show that he needs to stay out of it, frustrate Oliveira, make him want to call him into his guard and just pepper him with leg kicks over him and the odd punch, and not commit to too much in terms of the grappling. And I think if he had done that, he would have had a better chance of winning. But maybe
but when you do get it drawn into that, though, are you better off not to survive? Like, we're forgetting he did survive. He got to the end of the round. He won the round. He won 10-8 on 2 cards in that round.
Yeah, but he could have finished it. He could have finished it.
I don't know. I think that's an easy thing to say with hindsight. Like, I think if you have the opportunity to finish Charles Oliveira, absolutely do. But if you also have the opportunity to get fucking submitted by Charles Oliveira by making a stupid mistake, I would suggest not to do that and wait and bide your time. He saw he could hurt him. He took his time. I think he was trying to do it again, trying to set up something to do something similar again. Like, I would not criticize that at all. Like, why? He was winning the fight at that stage. Why would you give up something to Oliveira? Like, if Oliveira hadn't gone out and knocked him out after 19 seconds, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. If it was a similar sort of round again, if he kept doing that, like, I don't know. I never thought that once while watching the fight that Chandler was making any big mistakes. He was like on the verge of like, oh, he should have done this and this and this to finish the fight. To be honest, I thought he did about as well as he could have. I thought he had a good game plan. I thought he came out and landed those big shots, which I didn't think he would be able to. I thought Oliveira would dominate in those sort of positions, but Chandler was able to put on the pressure and land some good shots. I think it's been a little bit harsh. But on Oliveira, like,
Well, yeah, look at him a few years ago and kind of the problems he had. Well documented. We've talked about it a lot. The kind of mental side of things, and he's really put a streak together. He's now obviously you mentioned Habib earlier. Habib's gone. Like, I think it would have been a different story if he had a fought Habib, and would have been the same for the rest of the division as well. So it's opened up here. He seized his opportunities. He's now the champion. If you had asked me that a few years ago, I would have thought, yeah, he has all the MMA, the mixed martial arts abilities to do it, but I would have been surprised that he's managed to turn around the kind of mental side of things. We don't really see guys, if they've kind of had those problems for a few years, turning around so kind of drastically. In old fights, I think even in the first round against Chandler, he probably would have just shelled up and got TKO'd, but he has more fight in him now than before, and I think that's what he needed. That was the only thing kind of missing from his game. Obviously, 14 submissions in the UFC. He's by far, he's 3 ahead of Demian Maia, who, if you think back of his fights, you kind of just remember him submitting everybody. So yeah, his striking has come on a lot. Maybe he's not the best defensive striker, but he uses his striking well. And fair play to him. He won it fair and square. I just think Chandler will look back on that and be disappointed in some decisions.
I don't, to be honest. I think he look back and say, I threw my shots, I tried my best. He had some success and it wasn't good enough in the end, and Oliveira came out and did very well, and I don't know. The first round ends when the first round ends. He won the first round. You have to move on from that stage, I think. I don't know. I just don't see that at all, to be honest. I really, really don't. And watching back the round, and maybe it's because I watched back the round, and I actually don't think Oliveira was in nearly as much bother as maybe I thought live, and maybe a lot of people are kind of suggesting live, and even the commentary. And I'm not criticising the commentary. I think, you're going to get carried away.
Maybe it's in our psyche or in the back of our mind about when he does get hurt. It's
100%. I thought that as well. I was like,
maybe that's playing part of it. Maybe if I watched the back, I'd think differently. But at the time, I thought, Chandler just needs to, make Oliveira stand back up and hit him with a couple more shots, and he'll probably be finished. But maybe that's a case of judging the old Oliveira as opposed to this new version.
Yeah, and your points on Oliveira, I think they're very well made, but I would disagree a little bit in that I actually don't think he had the skills a while back to get to this point. I don't think he had UFC championship skills.
Well, he showed it in flashes, he showed bits of it, and then he just kind of, when it started going against him, he'd kind of get away from it.
Yeah, but I think he had, I think he had the jiu-jitsu. Like if you look at someone like a Brian Ortega, he had the jiu-jitsu and his striking wasn't great. Now he's added the striking. Let's see if he can move it to the next level, like Oliveira has as well. But I think not just the striking, but the style of striking and the way he does it, and the wild abandon, which we saw in the second round, and not just wild abandon, but wild abandon with kind of a technical base behind it, where he throws these lovely stray shots and these powerful hooks, because he knows if he gets taken down. I honestly don't think people understand how good Charles Oliveira is on the ground. 15 of his last 16 fights have been finishes. He is an absolute murderer, finisher. In the lightweight division, that's absolutely crazy. Tony Ferguson's the only one who hasn't been finished. Now, he lost a couple of those fights as well, don't get me wrong, but Tony Ferguson got the shit beat out of him for the full 3 rounds against Charles Oliveira, and that's the only person that survived in the last... in the last 11 years, he's only 2 decision wins. Crazy stuff altogether. But I think that added ability in the striking and his coupled with his game plan have made him such a better fighter. But I 100% agree with you. That ability to adjust mentally, become better mentally, become a tougher, just a harder bastard, has brought him to where he is. If he didn't have that, if he improved his style, if he improved everything, if he improved his technique, as we saw yesterday, sometimes in MMA you'll get hurt, you'll be down, no matter how good of a fighter you are. But it's, I think Michael Chandler said it afterwards, everyone gets knocked down, it's the people that stand up that we remember. And I think Charles Oliveira, the point yesterday, I think everyone probably thought, is he going to get up? And he fucking did. He absolutely did.
I do think, I do agree with you, but I do think he was given the chance to escape. At the end of that first round, he's on all fours and Chandler has his left hand on his back and he's throwing these terrible right-handed punches. If he
I don't think it matters.
Punch, if he picks a good punch there, that's probably over. Like
I don't think it matters sometimes. Like if you have the propensity or whatever the fuck it was to give up, if you're giving up, if you're beaten down, you will find a way to lose, you know. And I think he found a way to win yesterday. He found a way to survive more than finding a way to lose. And look, we can say what we want about Chandler and what he did and didn't do, but what Charles Oliveira did was fucking survive that tough first round, and he survived getting hurt a couple of times. And you know, I think he deserves more credit for that than anything, you know.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. Like, you know, he lost that first round comprehensively. You know, coming into the second round, he just kind of peeled himself off the floor. So he did absolutely brilliantly to turn it around so quickly. I just think in that moment, in them moments at the end of the first, if he makes Oliveira stand up against the cage and hits him with a couple of big punches, he's probably finished. And if he, instead of kind of flurrying that right hand, if he picks his shot nicely, I think he probably puts him away as well. But you know, Oliveira did move his head and even though he was kind of on all fours, he was kind of making it a little bit as difficult as he could by moving his head. So you know, fair play to him there. I just think it was. I disagree with you. I do think there was a big chance missed by Chandler at the end of that first round. A big chance missed. You know, you usually see like a upper echelon guy, like, you know, kind of be a little bit more composed and take that opportunity in that moment.
Yeah, I still think I don't know. It's fair enough. We disagree, no problem. I still think he was just a little like when you're fighting Charles Oliveira, that's the X factor. Like if Michael Chandler was fighting Conor McGregor in that position, I would have probably said the same, because like McGregor good on the ground and everything, I think underrated, but like he's not Charles Oliveira, you know. He's not going to catch you in a fucking leg lock or a guillotine or like immediately. He might be able to do it if he's given the right opportunity, but he is like, or anyone else. I think even a Tony Ferguson, who's a very good jiu-jitsu guy, or anyone in that division.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, I just think Charles Oliveira is extra. But anyway, like if people missed the fight or anything, I'll just give you a quick run through what exactly happened, and we'll move on after that and maybe talk about what's coming next. But so the fight started. Charles Oliveira gave some lovely low kicks. Mike Chandler hurt him with a big left hook, and nearly got the guillotine on Charles Oliveira. Charles was forced to defend, got out, and then took Michael Chandler's back. Chandler kind of stood up with Oliveira and his back,
slammed him tighter into it.
Slammed him back tighter into it. And look, he made Chandler defend. Chandler did a great job of defending. That's why I thought it was just a 10-9, but there was damage. He cut him over the eye, he hit him hard, and there was dominance in large parts of the round. So if it's a 10-8, there's two D's there.
I thought it was 10-8 because obviously it's going back to what we were saying. I thought he was basically on the verge of being finished with the right shot, but like it's one of those it's very close, like to a 10-8, 10-9. Like I can see it both ways, but I probably would have lent a 10-8.
Yeah, I thought there were some good shots from Charles Oliveira in the back, but Michael Chandler did power out. They both got up, then big left hook kind of half dropped him again. There was some shots on the ground. He went into the guard, missed a lot of shots. Charles was kind of going for the arm and defending himself more than anything with that, and like almost nothing landed in the last minute or so. And in the second round, Oliveira came out and he just went forward and landed a few big left hooks, and Chandler got hurt by one immediately. Charles Oliveira did a great job of kind of following him as he was hurt around, and then landed another couple, and that was all she wrote. The referee came in, I think it was Dan Morglada. It was a good stoppage. It was absolutely.
It was like Chandler was just looking for a couple of seconds to recover, and Oliveira just wouldn't give it to him. Yeah. You know, that was just, he seized the moment, like, you know, very well. I think what Chandler kind of didn't do in the first round in that moment, but Oliveira, you know, he's you know, definitely massively improved his striking. You know, that was a pretty nice little left. You know, we've seen kind of him use the strikes to make it awkward and kind of suck guys into his game. But I think recently we're seeing definitely that he's much more well rounded, and he's a problem for anybody just because of his jiu-jitsu. He's always been, but now he can cause problems for people on the feet as well. And he seems much more confident there than he ever was. And, you know, even though he's been around for a long time, I still see him improving. He seems to still be improving. So yeah, you know, fair play to him. You know, he's been written off before. You know, these young guys come in, and sometimes you need to take the the long road and the hard road to develop into somebody, you know, a championship level fighter, and he's done that. And you know, I picked both the Poirier and McGregor against him, but I think, you know, if you tell me, oh, I missed the fight or whatever, and I woke up the next day and you say Oliveira submitted either of them, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. You know,
that was the next question I was going to ask you. Obviously, like we probably think it is going to be either McGregor or Poirier next. They're fighting on the 10th of July, I think. So it's 7 weeks from now ish. I think they're both interesting fights. Like, I think they're like the one thing you want against Charles Oliveira. I think we saw it last night with Michael Chandler. You come out and try to hit him hard. You know, he leaves himself open, and you have to take those openings. And I think whether McGregor and Poirier, they're both power strikers. Now Poirier, I think his ground game is really, really good as well, and him and Chandler him and Oliveira on the ground will be really, really fun. And obviously, you know, with McGregor, he's very good takedown defense. And but McGregor said himself in the past, even after the Floyd bout, he was like, pressure fighters are something he has to deal with and something he has to get better at. And you know, that's exactly what Oliveira is. I think that'd be an interesting matchup. But would you pick Charles Oliveira to beat both of them at this stage, or both of them to beat Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, I'd pick both of them to pick Oliveira, but he definitely has methods of victory in against anybody in the division. You know, it's an interesting kind of you know, you were mentioning about Habib there, maybe being a bit boring. I don't even know if it was that. It just kind of people kind of want fights that they don't know who's going to win.
That's exactly what I meant. Like, I don't think his style particularly boring, but just the outcome was kind of getting to me.
Yeah, you know, when GSP was on top, you're just like, yeah, well, he's going to easily beat Nick Diaz here. He's going to easily beat John Fitch here. You know what I mean? It's just not that much fun in it, even though it's, you know, it's breaking records and all this stuff, or Demetrius Johnson even, you know, Ray Borg, yeah, you know, it's hard to get excited about that because you know the outcome 99, like, unless something freakish happens. So this is like a fresh lease of life on the division. And like Khabib is you know, always kind of loitering there to come back as well. If somebody kind of stands there at the top of the division, you know, that's always in the background, which adds even a bit more, you know, adds a bit more, I don't know what you'd say, importance. Yeah, importance and spice and everything to it. So yeah, I think you know, kind of, if Chandler had won as well, I probably would have, you know, done the same. But I prefer I'm more interested in the matchups of Oliveira versus Poirier and Oliveira versus McGregor than I would be in the Chandler one. Although I'd obviously love to see all of those fights.
Yeah, I think I'd pick both McGregor and Poirier right now over Chandler. With Oliveira, I'm not so sure. Like McGregor in his last showing, I'd probably pick Oliveira over him. But Poirier, I think I'd probably pick Poirier over Oliveira. But like if McGregor comes out and he knocks out Poirier, like I'd probably pick McGregor over him. That's one of those, like, where it's a very fluid situation.
Well, like we'll obviously be making, if Dustin wins or if Conor wins, and it's nearly, you know, it's inevitable that that the fight with Charles will happen, and we'll have a bit more you know, information from has Conor been able to, you know, close down the holes in his game that Dustin was able to exploit, and can Dustin, you know, either way, it's a really interesting matchup. You know, if Poirier wins, that's a huge matchup. You know, that's Poirier's obviously, you know, been around for a long time. He had the kind of notoriety from the first fight against Conor, even though he lost it just from having all the build up and all that stuff and the fight itself. And obviously he's had the biggest win of his career in his last fight, and maybe that will give him, you know, even more confidence. You know, Poirier's kind of talked in the past that back on his kind of rise, he just didn't really have the confidence. He was like Conor was able to get into his head and kind of rile him up and kind of, you know, take away his focus. And you know, maybe Conor's going to try and do that again. You know, maybe he's going to try and go at him this time.
Do you know what I think is very interesting as well? It's not just Poirier's focus, but McGregor's focus as well. I've had a few people ask me, I think one person asked in the Q&A a couple of weeks ago, it was like, about McGregor's preparation. I think is he out in Dubai or somewhere like that, and I saw him training with John Mitchell and stuff. But I thought one thing was very interesting, and we're still 7 8 weeks from the fight, so you know, if I think he looks fit and he looks very well. You know, whether he about getting into sparring and things like that. That's something that'll probably come up in the next couple of weeks, but I think he's in probably a good position to kind of start the MMA camp. But I think one thing that's very interesting that he put up on Instagram or Twitter or somewhere, it was on Twitter, when he did that Q&A, he said, his his fiance, I think there at the moment, is due any day now, and he said that once they kind of get back to normality in, I suppose, a week or two after that or whatever it might be, that he will be like going into isolation and he will be training by himself away from his family, preparing for this fight. And I think for a lot of McGregor fans, and I know we're obviously we're talking about the lightweight title picture here, so that's why we're kind of bringing this up, but I think a lot of people coming into the last fight and after the last fight were saying, oh, McGregor's like, he's too nice, and he, as you mentioned there, maybe he won't be as nice in this fight and be taking the piss out of RA and stuff like that. I think maybe the whole, and McGregor said it himself, so it's not just me saying it, but he was like, being around the family, not being nasty enough maybe is an issue in this game. And I think that's a very interesting topic and a very interesting point coming into this fight, how much of a difference that actually makes. So I'm looking forward to seeing where McGregor goes, what he does, and how he prepares here over the next 4 or 5 weeks until we kind of get towards fight month, let's say. But
I can't remember the exact quote, but years ago he said it himself about one of his opponents. He's got a family, he's got all this to worry about. He's not as obsessed, or who, I can't remember the exact quote, but he was basically saying about other fighters what you're saying, that and he's saying again himself, you kind of need to. There's like a mode you kind of need to get into if you want to perform at your very best, and maybe looking after your kids and all that stuff is great for distracting yourself, but keeping your mind off things. But when it comes to getting into killer mode, I don't know if it's the best.
I hear he's moving into your back bedroom and he's shooting those rumors, huh? Bring him in there. We got have him run around the streets of Dublin. Be good to do that. All right. Look, as we're on the lightweight picture, let's talk about Beneil Dariush versus Tony Ferguson. Look, if people didn't see the fight,
it's disappointing the UFC putting on squash matches and coming event to pay-per-views.
Yeah, this is actually this is the perfect kind of biased fight for the two of us, because Beneil Dariush is one of my favorite fighters, and Tony Ferguson, you've said he was rubbish for years. So
actually, to be honest, I remember Tony Ferguson on The Ultimate Fighter, and I wanted him to win it and all, and then I can't remember what he said. He was being a real dick about somebody's kid or something.
Yeah, he called the lad a fatherless bastard, didn't he?
Yeah, and I was kind of like, oh, mate, what are you doing? Yeah. But I still kind of liked his style on The Ultimate Fighter and stuff. But it was just the narrative that was spread by Rogan and Bravo and the hardcore Rogan experience fans or whatever. I think came from that he just became extremely overrated. Extremely overrated. They're talking like his jiu-jitsu is unstoppable when he doesn't even have the fundamentals down. We said it for years, this stuff isn't going to work against the top guys, and you can give him matchups that he can win. Absolutely, he went on a really good streak, and he even won some matchups that maybe you thought he would have lost, but every time he's come up against somebody who's anywhere near the top level, he's been squashed.
Jesus, Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo spreading bullshit? That can't be right.
Look into it, bro.
That can't be right. But yeah, look.
They're mates with them and all, it is hard to separate it. We know ourselves, we've watched some of these Irish guys coming up, and you're more into, you're more,
100%,
yeah, you're more invested, and you've seen so much more. For example, how many fucking hours of Connor have I watched training? You know what I mean? It's hard to have the same level of understanding of somebody's game when you've seen so much more one guy on the other, and you're definitely gonna. You're gonna. It's hard to explain, but you try to separate it in your mind and think. I just need to see this as this, but it's very hard to do, especially when Eddie Bravo and Tony seem very close, and obviously Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo have been best mates for fucking I don't know how many years, decades. So yeah, obviously they're gonna hype up their guy, but I think people kind of forgot to take it with a pinch of salt because it was their was his best mate.
It happens. It happens in every sport, I think. To be honest, like Gary Neville says something on television, or Jamie Carragher says something on television, people just kind of buy it.
Sometimes I hear them say it, I'm like, that's not what happened. But now I know that's going to be the narrative. I'm like, oh, fuck's sake! I know that's going to be parroted on all the podcasts, and all the people are going to think this, even though it's just completely wrong.
Yeah, like it's a totally different point, but like Jamie Carragher didn't put Gundogan in his team of the year this year, and I was like, he was arguably the best player in the league this year with, you know, a couple more. He didn't even put him in the team of the year.
Who did he put in ahead of him?
Yeah, I think he had Kante, De Bruyne and Bruno in midfield. But like Kante has played well, but only for like the last few weeks since the other manager came in. Like Gundogan's a brilliant season. But anyway, that's off topic. But I think on Tony, he was the problem with Tony, right, is, I think you said it there, we always knew he could beat guys until he reached a certain level. And when he did reach that certain level, I think it was as he was almost on, you know, as he was declining, let's be honest here. And it made it look even worse. Like, I think if he had, and the problem as well is, the first of those guys who he lost to was Justin Gaethje, who beat the living shit out of him, and then he went in against Charles Oliveira, who beat the living shit out of him as well, and then he gets in against Beneil Dariush, and Beneil like landed a few shots, but I think if there's any fighter from last night that you're thinking maybe could have upped the pace a little bit and gone for the finish, maybe it is Beneil Dariush.
Well, he was in cruise control from the first minute, you know.
I think he took it a little bit easy on him. Like, he landed those 2 overhand lefts, and I think he hurt Tony. And you could see, like, Tony's a guy who's always, like, taking shots and kind of being rocked a little bit by him, but kind of always came back and come out swinging again. But I don't think he was here as much.
Yeah. And I think, like, when you're on like an 8-10 fight win streak, the momentum is with you, and you have like even more confidence. Like, these guys are very confident and believe in themselves, but you kind of seem to get this invincibility feeling, and even if it's going badly, you think, oh, I just need this moment. But I think Ferguson knew what was happening. It was like deja vu for him, you know. He was like, oh, here we go again, and he played it safe. And I think Ferguson played it safe, and Dariush was happy. He's like, if you want to play it safe, I'll just completely dominate you here, no problem. I'll take this handy victory here, you know, against a very highly rated guy, and catapult myself into the title picture with no risk, basically no risk to myself.
Yeah, it was really an easy win, a total domination for Dariush. That and that's the only reason why
as expected, though. Like, as expected.
I wasn't 100% sure, to be honest. I picked Dariush and I thought he'd win, but I wasn't 100% sure Ferguson wasn't just like ill prepared for his last fights and came up against people like really, really good. I like Dariush. I don't think he's as good a fighter as Charles Oliveira at the moment, anyway. And Justin Gaethje, he's a different sort of fighter, but the way Gaethje fought against Ferguson was always going to be more devastating than Dariush did, unless Dariush caught him with a big shot and knocked him out. But when you look at Dariush, his striking is very, very good. His wrestling is fantastic, and his jiu-jitsu is one of the best in the division. It's absolutely brilliant. And like, he's better in all those areas than Tony Ferguson. The only area it probably isn't is the chin. And Tony Ferguson, I can't really remember Tony Ferguson landing one punch in him throughout the whole fight. So when that happens, Dariush is going to win the fight. There's just no two ways about it. But look, a good win.
You know, we saw like Freddie Roach and stuff in Tony's corner. It's you know, trying to change it up. It's gonna. This late in the game, I don't know. He seemed to be trying to use head movement at times, but he wasn't firing any shots. So I don't know. It was just it was a very lackluster performance from Ferguson. But most of that was due to Dariush just being superior everywhere, basically, as you said, and being happy to just, you know, if not panicking at all, being composed. If Ferguson was going for some kind of strange choke that, you know, that usually you wouldn't see, or there's a low percentage, he just waited it out. You know, he didn't let Ferguson create a scramble from it. He was just like, nah, I know this isn't threatening, you know, but maybe a guy who's not as comfortable or respects Tony's grappling skills maybe too much might have, you know, left Tony create a scramble there or something. Yeah. So I think he was patient, composed, and happy to just dominate,
tore the knee off him as well.
Be safe in the fight.
Yeah, he cracked Tony's knee, and Tony refused to tap the hard. He felt right now what he's built of. But look, I think Dariush is another one who a lot of people thought might never get here. He was getting knocked out. He was getting his chin checked a lot in fights, and then he changed up and he became a better fighter, and he doesn't look as half as vulnerable as he once was. So absolute respect to him for that. And yeah, he's I think he maybe slightly missed an opportunity to propel himself even further up the lightweight chatter, but he didn't manage to do it. He gave a weird post-fight press conference or post-fight interview as well, which I don't think really did him any favors either. So yeah, it was a good win, and I think as well, one last point before we move on from this fight. I think the analysis of Tony Ferguson has, as we discussed a few minutes ago, has been wrong for almost his whole career, especially his whole career when he got to on this streak and got towards the top level. But I think it kind of continues to be wrong, because I said it there, I think he's past his prime a little bit, but it's also due to the matchmaking he gets. And now people are saying, it's just because it's not the same Tony. Like Ben Askren as well, when he came to the UFC. Oh, it's not the same Ben Askren. Even though he fought a guy who was older than him and out for the same amount of time.
It's very similar. It's a slightly older, very similar thing. It's not as if this happened out of nowhere. Me and you literally been talking about. Me and Niall McGrath were arguing about this fucking 10 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, 5 years ago maybe. But yeah,
you know what I mean. This has been a long thing.
It really has. Yeah, it really has. If your analysis was he was the best in the world and now he's past his prime and he's only losing fights because he's past his prime, I think both those pieces of analysis are wrong. I think he was a very good fighter who was never the best. Now he kind of got shown up against that, and now he is passing his prime. And there's been a drop down in the level of competition, say from Gaethje to Oliveira. Well, obviously not now, but what we thought at the time, to Dariush again, and he's gotten worse in each one of those fights. So yeah, look, it's unfortunate. And Tony was a very good fighter. He was a top 5, top 4, 3 fighter in the UFC for a long time. But he was never the best, never. So the rest of the card here, we'll run through it pretty quickly. I thought it was a pretty good card, but Rodrigo Bontorin missed weight for a weight class above where he was at, but it was at relatively short notice, and he beat your boy Matt Schnell, Graeme, 30-27 all around. There was 129-28. I think it was the third round was kind of close in that one, but Bontorin just basically landed the more powerful, more impactful shots throughout it. And we were in Texas as well, so there were a few odd cards in this because they have judges
30-27 the wrong way.
Yeah, they have judges, and that can happen sometimes, but in this, in certain cases here.
No, but this wasn't. Yeah, this wasn't one of those cases.
No. Well, the 30-27s were right in this fight, but the Caitlin Chukagian fight, she got a 30-27, and I don't think it was. I think this was 29-28 either way. I think Araujo can be a little bit disappointed here. I thought Chukagian won the fight. I don't want to go, it should have been a split, but it's one of those where it could have been a split. Here
we go. You go mad if fucking your boy DC said that.
I know.
That makes no fucking sense.
I know it makes no sense, but you know what I mean, though. It was one of those fights where it was 29-28 either way. There was, I think, the first round was the close round. Araujo won the second round.
It depends what you like, or it depends what you think is scoring a little bit more than the other.
I don't know. I don't think it's that. It depends on what you see and what what. In around the first round,
you put more weight behind.
But it's not necessarily like people say. Is it? Oh yeah, you put more weight behind the volume over the power. No, it's not that. If there's power there, the power wins. That's written in the criteria. But in this first round, I don't think Araujo seemed to be the more powerful fighter, and she's fighting Chukagian, who is the volume fighter. And I hate that fucking word, but I don't think Araujo landed enough volume or enough power in the first round to overtake the volume of Chukagian. I think she really landed any big vertical shot. And actually, I think the judges actually went the other way. I think they gave it to Araujo, and then they gave the second to Chukagian, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. Anyway, look, they got the right decision in the end. I thought Chukagian won it. But welcome to Texas here. Edson Barboza then against Shane Burgos. It was funny. We talked on the betting show about Barboza throwing the low leg kicks and the calf kicks, and he fucking certainly did that. We're used to seeing Barboza throwing those higher kicks and those almost patented, original OG leg kicks, I suppose you'd call them, but he was throwing the lower ones here, threw some beautiful spinning back kicks to the body, reddened up Burgos, was landing some lovely left hooks. I thought, to me, the commentary was worse in this fight because they kept saying like, oh, Burgos is coming back, and look, he's landing. They were calling the Burgos shots, and they were not calling Barboza beating the absolute fucking shit out of him, I thought, for most of the fight. And then he was able to get the finish late in the fight as well. It was one of those, Charles Oliveira Cub Swanson fights where he hit him and he fucking stayed hit because he was like, right, I'm gonna keep going, and then his legs just failed him. He fell backwards.
He's like, I'm gonna no sell this. Oh no, I'm not. I'm going down.
Like, oh wait, no, yeah, this is gone. He just slipped away into the netherworld. But I thought it was a great performance from Barboza. Sometimes I build up these lads and saying like, oh, when they go down to 145, he's a year into it now. He's going to be a little bit more powerful. He's going to be a little bit better. Going to be able to go 3 rounds. And it turned out to all be right, that analysis in this fight. So I was happy with my analysis of this one. A very, very good performance from Barboza. I think Barboza, no matter what sort of fight he gets into, it's always fun, He will either go in and take a fucking beating or he will give out one, and it's always fun and always powerful and nasty with Edson Barboza. I love a bit of Barboza, I really do. I think he's one of those fighters, if Edson Barboza's fighting, I'm fucking watching, and there aren't as many of those fighters in the world today as there once was, but he certainly is one of them. So big respect to my boy Edson Junior Barboza. The prelims then, Jacare Souza, unfortunately for him, got his fucking arm snapped. Absolutely nasty.
Yeah.
Looked old as fuck.
He looked old up until that point. I think, maybe I'm wrong here, and jiu-jitsu people might say I'm wrong. I think it was a little bit unfortunate the way it happened for Jacare. Obviously, just kind of arm bars from everywhere if you can just get the arm hyperextended. But it seemed like he was about to get out, and it seemed like maybe, a non-traditional arm bar. I don't know how much of it was his hand that kind of accidentally got stuck there, or how much, it was down to his opponent. It's hard to know, as a not jiu-jitsu
Aljamain Sterling actually tweeted about it, funny enough, and he said I'm kind of paraphrasing him here, but he said he thinks because Jacare is kind of so experienced, he kind of and so confident in his jiu-jitsu, he took a bit of an easier step and just decided to straighten out his arm to get straight back up, and it was caught underneath him, so he basically gave him the armbar.
Did it get caught, or did the guy catch it? That's what I'm kind of unsure about.
I think it got caught, but
I think so too. But I don't want to take credit away from him. Maybe it was, if Jacare had done it, we probably would have said, they would have said, it's absolutely brilliant, and it was really, he did brilliant. He went into Jacare's game and was comfortable there and finished him there. Jacare did look kind of past it though. The game's just evolved beyond him, and he's gotten old and slow, and it's
at one stage there, Jacare was just a better athlete than a lot of these guys and way more skilled, and it feels like now the jiu-jitsu has caught up with his level and he's not as athletic as the other guys as well. Moon has looked bigger and stronger than him in all areas. Yeah, and it was a tough one. I thought Jacare did okay and he stayed in there and he threw some good strikes, but yeah, he's not the guy he once was. And Muniz is a good fighter. He's another one. I think, did he come from the Contender Series? But it's very hard to keep track of all these guys lately. But that will give him some notoriety, and hopefully they match him well going forward. But hopefully Jacare. I don't know actually what it was at the elbow that snapped. It seemed to be the elbow that kind of snapped out a joint rather than the arm itself. So it was very, very nasty.
He took it well, Jacare, anyway.
Very fucking well. I'm amazed he didn't stick it into his pants and keep fighting. I love the way as well Muniz was like, I let it go, and just because I want Jacare to survive for another day. I was like, you let it go? What do you mean you let it go? You fucking snapped it. You could hear the snap.
And then the ref stopped it.
Yeah. It's like, what did you want? Oh, I let it go.
After the refs would have pulled you off, Paul Harris style.
I didn't break his arm off, sever it through the skin, and bring it home. Thank you, Andre. Fair play.
Like if Paul Harris said that, you'd be like, oh, you must have a lot of respect for Jacare, but
Yeah, I let it go. Like, are you serious? One of the loudest fucking snaps we've ever heard in the history of MMA. I let it go. Oh, yeah, fair play to you, Andrew. But, yeah.
Well, great win for him, and it was a big step up, even against the guy who's maybe a lot past his best, and he looked good up until the point that he won as well. So fair play to him. But yeah, Jacare, it's not yeah, he's not able to do it anymore at the top level, and even now below the top level. So if this was any other sport, the guy should probably retire.
Get him in there against Luke Rockhold, maybe. That's a fight to make. Anyway, Andrea Lee also armbar, and Antonina Shevchenko. Like, Antonina Shevchenko is now one of these fighters whether you don't know whether she's going to come out and be a world beater or absolutely rubbish. Like, she is officially that. Her last two fights, she came out against Lipsky, was fucking NCAA her around the cage. Looked absolutely brilliant, and then she came out here against Andrea Lee and just got fucking destroyed. So I'm never betting on her again. She's like I don't know. She just I always amazes me with Andrea Lee how big she looks in these fights. I don't know why, but she just looked bigger, stronger. She's a very good athlete as well, Andrea Lee, and it was a good win for her, and she got a good finish as well. But I think from the early goings, I think she was always going to get the finish, and she did it well. Jordan Wright came out as well and went straight at Jamie Pickett and finished him brilliantly with some big shots through the McGregor elbows, and did very well. And your boy Lando Venata got the split decision over Mike Grundy. I didn't think this one was a split decision.
Won every round. There was a couple of close rounds, close enough, but I don't know. Texas.
Indeed. But he looked good. He looked back to his best. He was stopping Mike Grundy's takedowns. He was landing some nice shots, and he was exciting again. So that's what you want to see from Lando. So very good stuff. And down at featherweight as well. So very, very good. Priscilla Cochehera beat Gina Mazzani. Gina Mazzani had James Gallagher in her corner, and she had a good first round, but then she wilted and got very tired in the second round, and Cochehera managed to get the finish. I thought it was a bad stand-up from Mike Beltran in this, and I encourage more stand-ups. I think there should be more, but I think this one was too soon.
I don't like them unless it's clear that the guy is basically just stalling on purpose. I think you should have to get up. You should, you know what I mean. You should have to work your way out of there. But I definitely didn't agree with. I don't like many stand-ups.
Yeah, and I thought it was a late stoppage too. Like Mazzani, she kind
of called it off herself, did she? I think.
But then he let her take like 6 or 7 more shots. I don't like that. I think Mike Beltran, he's improved an awful lot, but I still don't think he's the upper echelon of referees. I really don't. And maybe he'll continue to improve and get better, but I don't know. I think it's just because we know he's very recognizable, and we just automatically think, oh, he's one of the top referees. But I don't know. I'm still a little bit skeptical on him. Do you know one thing as well? Recently, I think there's a lot of these lads trying to become like celebrity referees, and I do not like that thing at all. It's happening a lot recently, and I don't like it. If you're a referee, your job is to be in there and not be
big John McCarthy and looking for a job at the other end, making himself a character.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of that at all. And I think those referees, like, fair enough, if you want to move in, you don't want to do me there, you want to do a podcast like us or whatever, absolutely give up the refereeing and do it, no problem. But when you are a referee and when you are, an official, I think your job is to be not giving your opinion. Like, your job is to be, the X's and O's, the letter of the law, the doing the right thing at the right time, and it's, I think when you, like imagine if one of us was to become a referee or a judge. Well, we couldn't fucking do it because we spent the last 312 episodes talking shit about fighters and giving our opinion on them, and I've tweeted fucking 750,000 times and given my opinion on everyone. I just couldn't do it, and I think that's an issue with some of these referees lately, and I do not like it at all. So yeah, I just thought I'd give my opinion on that.
Bring back Tim Winslow.
Hashtag
free Josh Rosenbaum.
He actually is back, and he was refereeing lately.
I think he's only. I think they said he's only allowed in a couple of states or something.
Bellator, you get a fight in Bellator.
convicted criminal.
Bellator will give him a fight because he's a convicted criminal. Tucker Lutz first beat Kevin Aguilar. He won the first 2 rounds, I think it was, in that one. And then very, very good fight to open up the card. Christos Jagios, or whatever how you pronounce it, beat Sean Soriano with a bravo choke, it says here.
Sean Soriano actually looked like brilliant. A lot better than I remember him. Sometimes a little stint outside. Sometimes it can be the end for outside the UFC can be the end for some people, but he lost to Rosa in the UFC, was cut, had a victory, and then lost 2, and you're thinking maybe he might not be getting back to the UFC, but he's gone on. He lost 1 since then, but he's gone on 5-1 since then. Made his way back to the UFC, and he looks a different. His crisp striking. He looks a different fighter. He looked like he was going to cause a lot of problems, but in the end, obviously, he got Darce choked in the second round, but he definitely put up a much better fight than I expected.
100%. All right, let's move on. I think next week, we'll talk about the UFC card in a second, but I think there's a very big week for women's MMA coming up next week. Invicta returns. Karina Rodriguez and Diana Torquato are in the main event of that for the 125-pound title. And they have a lot of good up-and-comers as well on that, and the 105-pound atomweight title is on the line as well on that card. So I'm looking forward to seeing Invicta back. Myself and Ian have talked about it in the Chasing Pack 3 or 4 times already, and we'll continue to cover Invicta over there. I believe they're going to be on YouTube around here, but they're on Access TV, and we'll let you know exactly where they are. But the initial press release said that they're going to be online anyway in Ireland and around the world. So I'm looking forward to seeing Invicta back, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they look kind of not connected to the UFC, and getting 2 title fights back, and they've always done a great job. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And also on Bellator 259. With the main event, Chris Cyborg versus Leslie Smith in the rematch.
Anticipated rematch, as the press release said.
Yeah, the highly anticipated rematch. Yeah, it definitely is. Which we'll get to in a second. Also on the card, Valerie Reda against Hannah Guy. But the one we want to focus on here for a second is Ireland's own Leah McCourt against Janae Harding. And I think this is a very interesting matchup. I think both of them are in the Bellator rankings. I think 6 and 7 or 5 and 6, something like that. Right up there and towards the middle of those top 10 rankings. Watching Janae Harding's fight, obviously she fought
Sinead
Kavanagh. Sinead Kavanagh got cut in that fight. Was winning before it. But I think what Janae is good at, if you haven't seen her, obviously a lot of people know Leah, but Janae is a very kind of long fighter, and she's tough. I don't think she's like particularly the fastest in the world, and I think if Leah can kind of play into that, we know what Leah's background is. She has the judo. She's very good on the ground, good top game. Her striking is maybe not the best in the world at the moment, but she will obviously be improving that. We're working with Owen Roddy, who's Conor McGregor's striking coach and on, and being a very good fighter down through the year, so she will be improving in that. But I think it's probably straightforward enough here if she can get inside Janae Harding, try to take her to the ground and get on top from an Irish MMA perspective. I think that's the way to go for Leah. But I think it's a very evenly matched fight. I think they're both big and strong, and it'll be a good battle, and obviously whoever wins it will be moving on and could be maybe one fight away from fighting for a title. I know Sinead Kavanagh will probably have dibs on next after the main event next week, but I'm looking forward to seeing Leah back. I know you've known Leah for a long time, obviously covering her in the Irish MMA scene, but it's good to see her getting a big fight like this. And I think she's second fight in the card, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because the Irish people will be able to watch it. It'll be on.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I thought she'd be kind of more up the card, because she's kind of become a bit of a recognisable face and on the broadcast and stuff like that. So I was a little bit surprised with that. And Harding is 6 and 4, but she's shown in the Sinead fight that she can hang. I think Sinead was winning that fight and maybe could have continued, but it's on the record. It's there. It's a good win. But I think Leah, maybe in her debut, she's still a bit green, but in her debut she kind of I think it was in Cage Warrior she lost, got TKO'd, and I think her second fight was a very close decision, and maybe it was one of these where you have a very tough start to your career and it can go either way. And she's done really well to bounce back and, win 4 in a row against some decent opponents, for somebody starting their career. I think this is a good natural next step against somebody a little bit more experienced, but kind of up and down career. And I expect Leah to go in and get the job done, but I think it'll be a hard fought fight, and I think it's good matchmaking by Bellator.
Yeah, I think it really is as well. I think the biggest issue here is if Leah gets to win and she is not far away from the title. I think, like, as you said there, she's still relatively green, only 5 fights in, and if at the top of that division you have Chris Cyborg, I think Sinead Kavanagh is in a better position in terms of the experience level in her careers to get that fight right now, and I think she's ready for the fight. I'd like to see Leah get maybe another 5 fights before she gets there, but I don't think that's something that's going to happen in Bellator just because of the amount of people they have in that division. But yeah, this is a very interesting fight, and obviously, as you said, I would hope Bellator are doing this because they want it on a little bit earlier so people in the UK and Ireland can watch Leah fight, and if they just have her down the card because they think that's the right placement from, I think that is ludicrous, to be honest, because of the way they've pushed her and because of the way she's pushed herself. I don't think anyone in Irish MMA outside of Conor McGregor has done as well as Leah McCourt of putting herself in those positions or taking, she's, taking those opportunities. She's been with, BBC, and she's worked, she's been on TV above in the North, and she's worked with BT Sport and worked with everyone. She's done a really, really good, or Channel 5, I think it was, done a really, really great job. And if those improvements keep coming inside the cage as well, and I think Leah probably admit herself, there's a lot of improvements going. She's still very young in her career. Anyone from 5 fights into her career, there is a lot of improvements to come. And if they do come, Bellator could have a star on their hands. But big fight. This is outside of her first fight where she got a very tough matchup in her. Ian Dean didn't do her any favours there, but this is the biggest step up since. So if she can get through this, and look, even if she doesn't, I don't think it's I don't think we need to panic or anything like that. Just, lots of time for Leah to improve and to become the fighter that she can become in the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Although one of my favourite fighters is on this card as well, Alfie Davis. It looks like he's opening up the card, and I think he's a really, really good fighter. He's fighting Alexander Shalibi on this. As I mentioned earlier, Valerie Loreda is on the card as well. Grant Neal versus Tyree Fortune. Syed Awad, a Bellator staple, is back as well. Austin Vanderfort versus Fabian Edwards on this card. I love.
Have you seen much of Vanderfort?
Yeah, he's good. He throws big shots. He leaves himself open. I think he's a very, very good wrestler. Very good cardio. Very tough on top. They both have 10 fights. Fabian Edwards 9-1. Austin Vanderfort 10-0. I think, personally, right, it was funny, I don't know why, but I saw a tweet of mine the other day and saw Fabian Edwards is one of the best fighters in the world at finding a way to win. And I feel like that hasn't been there in these last couple of fights. But if he can get that back, if he can become the fighter now that you kind of fell in love with getting arm bars, getting these big fucking kicks to the body, knocking lads out, I think he'll win this fight. And I think if Austin Vanderfort pushes forward and draws that out of him, I think it might benefit Fabian.
Do you think getting away from the kind of stylish stuff and the kind of trying to be too patient and he just needs to let it go. I think he got into a rhythm of he could just get it done whenever he wanted to get it done as he was coming up, and he kind of started relying on that. Mm-hmm. And obviously, there was a controversial split decision with Shipman where a lot of people thought Shipman won, and obviously his last fight against Van Steenis, he lost on the scorecard. So maybe that's the kick up the arse he needed. Sometimes a guy gets a decision that maybe a lot of people didn't think he'd get, and he kind of nearly takes the victory as a loss and kind of learns from that. It seems like he didn't learn from that, but hopefully he learns from it. He's got a very high ceiling, but you got to start making it happen. He's 10 fights in now. He's not he's had more than 10 amateur fights. 10 amateur fights, 10 pro fights. So I'm very interested to see what approach he takes to this fight.
I would 100% agree. I think he needs to let it go. I think he really does. But I think if Vanderfort might bring that out of him, it's a very interesting fight. And it's funny, like Costello Vancinas was due to be on this card, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just scroll down here in Topology. Maybe not. Maybe it was last week's card on like a lower down position than this. But Fabian Edwards, I don't know why. Like I thought Costello Vancinas won that fight fair and square, but they seem to be pushing Fabian. I think they're paying him a good bit of money as well. So and still, I even though he lost, I think it's still good matchmaking. And in that 185 pound division, whoever wins this could be pushing towards the title. So I'm really looking forward to it. Your boy Darian Caldwell as well is on this card against Leandro Higo at 135 pounds. Maybe we could see the winner of that fighting James Gallagher, or something like that. So or Brian Moore.
Yeah. Caldwell he's a great wrestler. The submission, he seems to get himself into submissions. Yeah. This guy is a jiu-jitsu guy. He's coming off submission wins, a submission win over Bandejas. Maybe Bandejas isn't the best on the ground, but he went through him quite easy on the ground. And before that, he had a guillotine choke against Sean Bunch. This is a rematch. Caldwell got the guillotine over him the last time, but I think Caldwell should get it done. But I'm not as high on him as I used to be. I think he's had time to kind of close these holes in his game, and he hasn't really done it. Maybe he still will, but I don't know. I don't think maybe Caldwell's gonna realize his potential, but AJ McKee, and losing to him with that modified kind of crank from the guard.
Yeah.
It's not really any shame in that, but I just think maybe he's always going to have this problem in his career, and he's never going to kind of be the fighter that maybe I thought he was going to be when he first kind of emerged as a prospect.
Yeah, look, I think he's a good fighter, and I would tend to agree with that. And Higo might be the guy to kind of bring that out of him, but I think it'll be a good fight and a good co-main event anyway. Chris Cyborg did against Leslie Smith. Look, I all think we all know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
This is already, even before it happens, Jacare versus Camozzi too, kind of. Look, Leslie's just way oversized here, fighting at 145 pounds. She's probably more of a 125 pounder. Chris Cyborg is probably just going to come out and knock her out in the first or second round. So yeah, that's that's going to happen, I think, with a lot of Chris Cyborg fights in the next while. I don't think there is much competition for her in Bellator until, maybe Aaliyah or Janae Harding or something improves an awful lot. I think Sinead Kavanagh, that fight would be the best hope, because Sinead is very, very good with her hands and good defensively as well. And, everyone probably picks Cyborg to win the fight, but I think there'll be more jeopardy in that fight than any of the other ones. So hopefully that is the fight that happens after this. But look, it's always good to see Cyborg back anyway. Right, before we go, the UFC card for next week is actually a pretty good one. Main event: Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt, Jack Hermansson versus Edmund Shabazian, Zhao Nanyan against Carla Esparza, which could be a number one contender fight at 115 pounds. Ben Rotwell is on the card. Chris Bennett is on. Chris Barnett even is on this as well. If you don't know him, he's he kind of is a bit of a meme going around, the Beast Boy. He's like the Huggy Bear lad who has been really, really good for the last couple of years and getting some good wins out in fucking Road FC and places like that. So it'll be very, very fun to see that fight going down. And there's some Yancy Medeiros is on the undercard as well. He's always value for money. Court McGee on the undercard here as well. So what do you think of, first of all, Jack Hermansson versus Edmund Shabazian? Obviously Edmund trying to bounce back here from the first loss of his career, and Hermansson as well, a very good fighter. I would just about pick Hermansson here based on Edmund kind of getting found out a little bit in his last fight, but if he's at his best, it could be a fun fight.
Maybe it was a bit of a bad day at the office, but against Brunson, but I don't know. I wouldn't have much confidence. This is a hard fight to pick, but I wouldn't be able to pick either guy with much confidence. Hermansson's definitely, a good fighter. He has some very good wins, Dave Branch, Jacare, Gastelum. But, Yeah, I'd probably pick him to win a decision here, like based on Edmund's last fight. But if Edmund came out and looked like kind of the prospect he looked before, then he's the pick. But I think a lot of people kind of maybe got a bit carried away. Where sometimes, like when nice matchups, and you obviously always say you want to see a guy kind of challenged and see how they react, and he didn't really react very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'd pick Romanson as well here, and I think I'll pick Jan as well to be Carla Esparza. Although Carla's a bit of an Indian summer in her career there, she's done a great job in her last few fights as well. So if she can get the fight to the ground, and keep Jan there, I think she could have a chance. But I think Jan is I think she's a well-rounded fighter. She's good in the feet, and I think if she can land a few shots in Carla, she'll win the decision here. And the main event, I find this main event a little bit hard to pick, to be honest. I think we know what Cody Garbrandt is. He is a very, very good striker, very technical striker. But his chin can be suspect at times. Marlon Moraes was a victim of Rob Font's big punches in his last fight. So
Rob Font, like, he's beaten Sergio Pettis, Ricky Simon, and Moraes in his last three. Yeah. I know his last loss was to Assunção, and Cody Garbrandt obviously in his last fight put away Assunção with a nice right hook. But before that win against Assunção, who in my opinion looked a bit past it and maybe left behind in terms of the game developing around him, and before that, his last win is over Dominic Cruz nearly 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions around Garbrandt still. Obviously, it was a very important win against Assunção and a vital win, but Rob Font has really he's on the kind of form of his career, so I'd probably lean towards Rob Font. But like Garbrandt, if he can rediscover that old form, like he's not like he's not that old, you know what I mean? He's been around a long time. Maybe you could think he's like in mid-30s or something, but he's not even 30 yet. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't be that surprised if Garbrandt can get it done, but I think Font is my pick here.
Yeah, and Cody moved to Mark Henry's gym a couple before his last fight, I think, maybe. And
so you're picking Garbrandt.
Well, no, Font, you mean? But I don't know. I thought it was a bad move. But maybe, but what happened in his last fight, maybe it's a good move. I'm going to pick Cody, to be honest. But with no great confidence at all. But I do think it'll be a good fight. I think both of them are fun. And Cody sometimes he tries to come out and be all technical and all, but usually lads just try him in.
Himself,
he absolutely can't help himself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
it. I think it was such an important fight. Like, it was the title and all that. He managed to, I think he trained, or he'd imitated Dominic Cruz for training for other, and he so just kind of he had the muscle memory, but otherwise, and throughout his career, he gets involved in the gunslinging.
I think the thing as well with that Cruz fight is Cruz is not a guy who kind of wants to draw him into like a fight where he's going to test his shit and try to knock him out, which I think most people are since that. Cruz kind of wants the decision with him, which kind of plays into Garbrandt's hands a little bit, I think, because then he can become the fighter who's kind of looking for the finish and can land the bigger, heavier shots. But however, I think this will be a fun fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Drinking with the boys.
Hanging with the boys.
Or hanging with the boys.
Also, he fucking attacked Conor McGregor in the middle of the tough gym as well. So, he's a head case, God, he is. But Jesus, you have to.
He was defending his mate who turned out to be
not his mate.
Yeah. In fairness to him, he was trying to be noble.
What did your man say then afterwards? He's like, I'll make you wet your underwears or something. What did he say?
I can't remember.
Oh God.
Something about your underpants. Yeah, I can't remember.
Fucking tough is coming back.
I'll take your underwear or something.
Well,
you talk there. I'll try and find the quote.
What a show though! What an absolutely fantastic show. Tough was at times terrible for like the last 20 seasons, apart from like one. But it's coming back soon, actually.
Take care of your underwear.
I did a great job of filling time. What? What?
That's
Oh God, what a man. All right, we leave it there. What a way to end it. Also as well, actually,
do you remember the best part? Everybody was like, "What?" It kind of like broke the whole tension. Everybody's like, "What?"
Yeah, everyone was like, oh, yeah, exactly.
Wait a second, what?
While you're preparing for next week's card as well, get your picks in over at FightPicks, the app. Download the app on iOS and Android. Go to fightpicks.com. Get the app there. If you fancy Garbrandt, pick him to win. I fancy Garbrandt knockout, so pick that. Or pick the whole card. We go with the UFC main cards, and I think we have another 2 or 3 weeks in this year, and we'll be crowning a winner of the FightPicks app then at the end of May. So get your picks in. Don't forget your a week like Graeme did a couple of weeks ago. Stay right up towards the top. So you can create your own leagues as well, and you can sign up to their premium if you want to as well. And there's some great stats there. I'd really encourage people to download the app.
Yeah. And if you haven't been on it recently, I think the last update really changed the layout, the design, much easier to use, and definitely a big improvement.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we leave it at that. Thanks everybody for listening, and all that's left to do is give the inspirational quote of the week. There is no wealth but life. We'll see you next Tuesday, or probably Sunday.